Let's see if this is working. Not sure if this is working or not. Let's see. All right. Well, hi, everybody. I'm Joe Padilla. I'm with Grace Alliance. I'm actually the co-founder and the CEO of the organization. And today we're going to be talking about how to promote your Grace groups and your Thrive groups. Some helpful ideas and some helpful tips. Now, if you're watching live, if you're able to attend on this on the live session, you'll be able to write your comments right in the comment section and ask your questions, and I'll get to those later. But obviously, if you're watching this on a recorded session later, you can leave your comments and your ideas as well there later, and hopefully we can have just an ongoing dialogue through the comment section with this. So, but one of the thing is why we're talking about this topic is because this question of how do you promote Grace groups and the Thrive groups comes up all the time, and with meaning ideas or creative ways to how to do this. So that's why I wanted to talk about this. And so I want to talk about it from what works, and then we can find the tips, because then as we talk about what's working, we'll kind of see what doesn't work and all that, and that will come up naturally. So this is going to maybe affirm and validate some of the things that you guys are doing and that you see that's really working. So let's kind of dive in and take out a pen, paper, because I'm going to give a lot of information here that to really be constructive, and you walk away with a lot of tangible ideas that you can brainstorm with. Okay, so the first way that why it works to promote groups and things like that, and I'm going to use my handy dandy high-tech graphics here. Look at this. All right, so the first successful way, or the what works, is the networked advocate. Now, this is the person that you're quite well networked within some of the community mental health organizations or other organizations within your city. Whether that be NAMI or some other organization within your area. So, and then this also may include some people that are already advocates and well connected to some of the local universities and the programs that are going on there with the social work or even psychology, those departments and things like that. Because within these relationships, they can get the word out, and then and it naturally has a way of building out a lot of awareness through these places, because there's an established network of relationships there. Now, if you are not an advocate, or you're not well networked into that, so the tip with this is that you would want to reach out and build those relationships within your community with those organizations. And not because you want to, you have an agenda to really try to make your thing successful, really because you want to develop a relationship with those organizations. Because what we want to communicate in building relationships is that we're not in competition, we are in collaboration with each other so that we can help each other. Because the things that NAMI does, if it be NAMI or other organizations, sometimes they don't have this faith element. So we can collaborate together on different ideas and how we can even serve each other in different ways as an advocate or with these advocacy type of organizations. So when you're building relationships with them, you're just giving them awareness of who you are, what the groups you're having, and where they are with different churches and different things like that. You can also invite them to one of the groups so that they can actually experience that group together. And again, here's one note: when you're building relationships, sometimes they may not really embrace it, and they may even actually reject you. So accept that. That's okay. It's not personal against you or anything like that. There are just some people who just don't like the idea of it, and they just don't want to do that. And unfortunately, some might see it as competition and things like that, which that's not our deal or your deal. So now I've done this. For example, I built out relationships with NAMI in our local area, had a great relationship with them, and then I eventually got asked to be part of their board. And so I participated on their board for a couple of years and did a lot of numerous projects with them. So it opened up a whole new avenue of being able to work together so that we could collaborate and not feel in competition with each other. So that's the first one. So that's what we really kind of see that's working to promote groups is the network advocate. Okay. Now, the second area is the networked pro, or you have a great relationship or a network with other professionals. Okay. So, and these pros, these professionals, we actually see a lot of mental health professionals who use our materials as part of their practice, especially with the Thrive workbook. We've seen several professionals use that with their clients as an addendum or a supplemental type of thing as they're working on deeper therapy tools. They're looking at this to help them with the faith-based and even extra tools to keep it simple and to keep some things in healthy motion for their clients. A lot of professionals are working within the church, and they're facilitating groups and helping the church in that way. So I've actually talked to several professionals who are very involved with grace groups or some use of our curriculum and books and things like that within their church, so that they can be helpful in providing extra information and support for individuals. And of course, there are some who are working as their own organization and things like that. So as a networked, like we said, like the networked advocate, there are some who who have their own organizations. Actually, I'm thinking of like Denise in Ohio. I think her organization is called Remove the Stigma or something like that. And so she has that natural advocacy and those relationships. Where in here, this makes me think of Vincent, who's over in Singapore, and his organization I think is called Hope Alliance. And so through his organization, he's been able to use our curriculum along with his other professional tools and different things so that they're establishing groups and things like that elsewhere. So you can try to reach out to professionals because there are a lot of great new, not new, but there are a lot of great faith-based and Christian professionals that are out there who want to be involved and who are desperately looking for something like this, and they've been waiting for something like this. So again, you want to build relationship with them, not so that you can just have an agenda so that you can keep your group growing, but really have that relationship so that you're collaborating with professionals and that you can help build bridges there and heal the tension oftentimes with the church and these professionals as well. Okay. All right. So the third area that works really well in promoting groups is when you are networked with the pastor or the church leaders, or sometimes with the church leader being the care pastor or care directors or pastoral departments and things like that. That's where we often see a lot of great success as far as promoting groups and things like that. And that these pastors, with the relationship that you have with them, or these church leaders, you have that established relationship where they believe in you, or they believe in this need, so that they are fully behind this and they can get on board with you. So again, this pastor or these church leader relationships, that they're going to be able to bless you in this journey as a part of the church or even outside of the church. Even if they're not facilitating with this within the church, they'll bless you in the community and whatever you want to do within that, so that there's no tension at all. There's really a blessing to work within or outside, so that there's always that cooperative relationship that you're having with them. So when I started Grace Alliance, I remember talking to our pastor at that time, and I said, hey, I don't necessarily want to start this organization as a ministry within this church. Because I see this as a really bigger need that's ecumenical and that can really go far-reaching. And he said, I bless you because we've got to take the gifts that God has given us and go beyond the walls of the church so that we really reach people and bless them. So again, if the best ways to a pastor or a church leader can help in promoting their group, the number one way that we always see success in the promotion is when the pastor is able to promote it from the front of the church, because that just says a lot from the pastor. Basically, if he accepts it, then it gives permission for everybody else to accept it and not question it as so much, because it's a safe place and it's a safe idea, especially when it's coming from the front. Then the second way is that obviously if it's promoted within the different ministries or as a ministry of the church, whether that be on the website or on the bulletin, so that people know and understand that this is an accepted ministry or an avenue how the church wants to help and support people within this topic. And then obviously the word of mouth among staff and church leaders that they know, because they'll refer people, because a lot of that times that the staff or other group leaders or lay leaders within a church, if they're knowing about this, they're obviously going to come in contact with people, and then they can refer them over to the group. And where we've seen this actually happen with pastors and elders, they'll meet with a family and then refer them over to the group, and then have a great place for the community to continue for that restorative and healing process. So if you are not connected to the pastor or the church, that's, again, it's the reach out and build a relationship with the church leaders, not so that they have to accept everything, but you're building awareness and relationship of what's going on, whether they want to have it within their church or that they know that you're going to be doing it outside the church on your own. And so, again, if your pastor needs more information or just more help on understanding this, we have a free church consult. You can go to our website and click on the page where it says for your church, and then they can read all about it, and we'll set up a 1-hour meeting with them to help them understand this very simply, very easily, so that we can provide that extra support and help understand how this works, and not even as a sales pitch for Grace Alliance, but just in general, how this whole thing works within the church and how they can actually brainstorm whether they want to do our program with you or look at other ways as well. Okay. And again, it's relationship. If you hear from the advocacy, the pros, and the church, it's all relationship. That is what really builds on the success. And again, even if they don't want to be a part of you, if they reject you, if they're not interested, don't take it personally. It's just a process of learning and growing. I have my fair share of no's, rejections, and even some who say, well, we just don't see that need in our church at all. So, and I just say, hey, that's okay, great. If you ever see or ever come across this, at least you know we're there, and we'll come alongside you and provide as much information, help, and support as we can. Okay. All right. So that's helpful. Those are the kind of ways that to be creative as far as networking with advocate or advocacy organizations, professionals, and your church and things like that. Now, if you've got questions, you can put those in the comments or ask each other later in the comments if you're watching this on a recorded. Okay, so that brings up the question of how do we promote well? All right, so these are going to be the extra tips, tools, and tricks of how to do this, and so help you navigate this. All right. So the first point on this promoting well is, excuse me, is that you want to use language that resonates before it reasons. Okay. Again, you have to. People need to understand and feel connected to this topic rather than try to just reason it all out and then that's the reason why we need this. It's people need to understand. So when you're promoting and sharing this idea with others, whether that's the church pastor or other people or things like that, you want to use language that resonates before it reasons. So a first point under this is use language that speaks to the experience. Okay. And the experience in the sense of describing it, and accepted language that seems to resonate with them. So some of the language that's trending and resonates with a lot of people, especially millennials and even Gen Z, is the language of depression, anxiety, and mental and emotional health. Those terms seem to be very widely accepted within people. They have an understanding of that. And they can resonate with that as an experience and descriptive language. So we like to use terms in the sense of living with or experiencing depression, anxiety, and mental and emotional health challenges, things like that. Okay, so use that descriptive language in those terms, and you can even go more into that of feeling burnt out. When you feel so low and you feel disconnected from God, that describes the experience. And oftentimes that's the language the Bible itself uses to describe a lot of these things. It doesn't use, obviously, as you know, mental health terms or clinical terms. So when it gets to clinical terms, you want to use that as secondary language as the reason afterwards, not at the front end. Okay. So you want to avoid clinical language language that's that like mental illness, okay? Language like chemical imbalance or a brain disorder or things like that, and then using statistics. And the reason for that is because and I've looked at all this research on stigma, mental health stigma, and the more that we use clinical language like this, it begins to increase the stigma. And the reason for that is because what this does is it gives a sense of permanence, that depression or that mental illness is going to be permanent and there's no hope for getting better. And then what it communicates to people is that that's a different species of people and I want to avoid them. And this is what the research shows over and over and over. And this research goes back all the way back to the 1950s. And they find that what's increasing is, oh, okay, well, we need more medical help, but it's actually increasing more distance and avoidance for this. So that's why we have to speak in terms of experience, the human experience of this, and understanding, because it resonates like, hey, I've been there, I've had something similar, or I know somebody similar in this place. And so it's not that the permanence of hopelessness, but it's, yeah, you can have a condition, but life can actually look a little different and even better. And so there's a hope with it. And it doesn't create a different species, but it builds a connection with people. Okay. All right. And the second point of this is to speak to the humanness of it and the Christ-centered hope that's in it. And basically, this is where you would share your story and or stories that are in the Bible that really describe this experience and how God is integrated in that. Because some of you, you have been through this journey, you have a lived experience with the hope and reality of Jesus and how that led you to a better place, and how this curriculum is not only encouraging and reinforcing, but it's actually helping others see that same reality. And it's a tool that's helping create a new place of human real experience with Christ integrated inside that experience, leading to hope and practical grace for life to get better. So, stories before statistics. And we want to communicate the friend connectedness of community before facts. Okay. And it just works that way. No one, and the research shows that no one is convinced or makes huge changes based off of facts and statistics alone. But when they know your story and that they know you're a friend, they'll be able to realize what those statistics means in a real connectedness way and maybe jump on board. Okay. All right. So the other point to this when you're promoting is to use language that has positive outcomes. All right, use positive outcome languages. Okay, so this gets down to the whole point of support group. All right, so when you use the word support group, for a lot of people, that has a lot of stigma surrounded around that. It has all these images and ideas of the dark room in the back of the church. You can only come in through the back. It's real secretive, or whatever. And it's kind of like this last resort of dear, hopelessness and things like that. So there's a lot of stigma surrounded by that term. Now, but when you're using that term with the pastors and church leaders, for them, they also have that, but then it also crosses over them for pastors. It crosses over into clinical liability concerns. And because they only see that as very severe conditions and severe things. And then this is going to be a therapy group. And I don't know if we're set up for that. I don't know if we can deal with that. And again, stigma thinking, but then also the stigma clinical, terms and liabilities and things like that. So within this process, that we're trying to help them understand that this is not a clinical therapy group. Okay, so we want to avoid all of that kind of clinical kind of stuff, so that so we bring it down into positive outcome language. Because sometimes support group doesn't really mean positive outcomes; it kind of means support for your ongoing pain. However, what really works in promoting groups, and what we like to help, encourage you to use, is not to use the support group language, but to use language that the church already understands and people in the body of Christ already understand, which is this is a discipleship small group experience for those who are experiencing mental and emotional health challenges even a diagnosis. And that speaks hope, because what people are looking for, and when they come on looking on online and all that kind of stuff, they're looking for places to overcome, not to just support them and to stay in pain. They actually want to overcome. And a discipleship process is overcoming challenges. And not necessarily, we're not trying to get rid of the mental illness diagnosis, but we're trying to help you understand how life can be lived in a very resilient way despite whatever diagnosis is there, and life can be different, and you can still fulfill the meaning and purpose that God has for your life. It doesn't have to be so stuck, okay? And for pastors, they're always looking for something faith-based and Christ-centered and biblically based or scripturally based. They're looking for those types of things. So when they hear support group, they don't hear that discipleship or that faith-based or that scriptural-based type things, because they want discipleship growth type of journey, because their calling is to feed the sheep. And so they want to make sure if this is a program that has faith in it, is it feeding, is it growing, and is it helping our people overcome the different challenges that they're going through? And that's the kind of things that are going to be very receptive. And people in the body of Christ, they're going to pay attention a little bit more, because you're using positive outcomes, because that discipleship, that growth, because this group is about empowering life, not just trying to support you so that you don't feel unstuck, but you really are. Okay, so this is, and then again, then secondary, you can talk about this group is proven. It is evidence-based. We do have research published showing that the Living Grace group does reduce symptoms. It helps with mental health recovery, and it does renew people's faith. So pastors and other church leaders and even people in the body of Christ will be a little bit more receptive, because they see that overcoming principle in Christ being lived out through this community experience. So use positive outcome language in promoting that. And then lastly, you want to be creative and be patient, all right? So and being patient about this is try not to focus on serving and for the numbers, okay? This isn't about trying to grow your group so that you have good numbers, because numbers doesn't always equal success, okay? So it's always just focus and serve whoever's in front of you. That name, that person, even if it's one person. And even if you show up to a group and no one's there, that doesn't mean that you are failing and God's not for you or anything like that. It's just a patient process to allow these other things to come into place. Maybe there's more relationship to build, and because maybe there's something to build within the community that really builds confidence to the group being acted out. Maybe there's more relationships that are going on. I had to do that. I built a lot of relationships before we even started a group. And the relationships that we were building, they were crying out, hey, we got to have a group. So it kind of built into its own momentum. And that's the whole thing. You serve to build momentum, not to build success. So success is in a changed life, not in the how big or small your group is, okay? I remember a person that was in the group, and then I was actually coaching them, and then they had this revelation of years feeling like they finally felt like God loved them. And I just sat back, and I remember saying to myself and those who were serving, I just said, we're done. That's it. If we did anything else, that was worth it. And obviously we've just kept growing on the momentum. So I've been to groups where we've had 20 people, and I've had groups where I've shown up and no one's been there. I've been there, so just be patient with the process and all that. Now, as far as being creative with this process, what you want to do is just be creative to get the word out. Again, you have the relationships, but then what we do see, many of you have told us that you use Facebook or Instagram to announce your book. I think within the month we saw a church out in Los Angeles. They held up the Redefined workbook and a picture of it on Instagram and saying, hey, we're starting this group soon with our youth. And so you can use that to your advantage so that you can let people know what you're doing. So you can use that if you feel comfortable. Use social media to your advantage to let people know and be aware. The other one is use social apps. Some people have told us that they use I think it's called Neighborly or something like that. There are some neighborhood types of connections, and they have promoted the group on there, and they've actually seen people respond through that. And then also you can list your group online on our website. So you'd have to register your group with us. You can go to the start your group page there, and then you can register your group, and you can let us know if you want your online group to be open to anybody or just to list your group, your state and city, and then your email contact. And that's another way to promote. And then lastly, because of your relationships, you can just email. You can do an email to let other people know, hey, here's what we're doing. And then give them links to our website and material and things like that. And let them know what you're doing, because people will share that to others. Because as you guys know, there's always somebody that they know who is in this journey, and whether it's now or later, they'll know that you are the hero to help them along their journey. Okay. And then, and as your group gets going, whether you have one or two or things like that, or even bigger, the value experience of the group alone will create a word of mouth in the community. And that's actually how we have grown and seen so many people grow within their groups, because the word of mouth from the group just naturally goes out. It's not, we don't tell people to, hey, go out and tell everybody about this. They because of the experience they're having with feeling loved, feeling not judged, and actually getting better and being helped, they will tell others. I know I led a group, and there was one individual. They were emptying out all of the other support groups in the city and having them come. And I remember showing up, and there were like 25 people in the room, and I was like, what's going on here? It's because this one person was telling everybody. And because his life alone was being so transformed, it was speaking loudly through his own life, and people were curious, and they came to the group. So again, that's another way with that. All right, so those are some helpful tips. Those are some helpful things to help you guys in that process. And again, make your comments below of what's worked for you in promoting your group. Maybe there was something I said or in this that really was helpful for you guys. And so share how that worked for you. And obviously keep it brief, because these long comments, they're hard to get through for everybody. But what's really worked for you guys in this process? And if there's something really creative that's worked for you as well, share that in the comments here. I don't see any other comments here or anything like that, so I'll just go ahead and end it here, and then you guys go ahead and just dialogue in the comments and share about your experience. All right, blessings, and let us know how we can help you and bless you, and other topics you'd like to discuss in these Facebook Live events. All right, blessings.